Wren, what did you have for breakfast today?
Well, I had my usual, which is 4 eggs, part full eggs, part egg whites with avocado toast.
4 eggs? Oh my God, you're going to be so poor soon with all of this crazy eggflation going on.
I know, I've been following all the stories. Like, have you seen the videos of like the egg line wrapping around all of Costco's perimeter?
I entered Costco and I was on my mission for eggs. Then this happened. We got here at 9 a.m. right when they opened, and there was already a line like this. And there it is, the Fort Knox of eggs.
Costco just opened at 10, and there was already a line outside, like Disneyland. This is crazy, guys.
And now Costco and Trader Joe's are limiting the number of cartons each customer can buy. And 100,000 eggs were stolen from a grocery store in Pennsylvania.
No, like people are getting desperate. I've seen reports of eggs being smuggled across the southern border, and companies like Rent the Chicken are popping up where you can like rent hens for 6 months so you can produce your own eggs.
Denny's and Waffle House are adding egg surcharges to their menu. And Easter's just over a month away, and that's usually the highest egg demand of the year. But I think it's safe to say no one is dying eggs this year.
And these rising egg prices are getting a lot of national attention. So over the weekend, Trump shared an article on Truth Social called "Shut Up About Egg Prices." So the article says a dozen eggs currently cost around $7, which is up from just $2 in October.
Which is an all-time record. And the USDA predicts egg prices will continue to increase 41% in 2025. And Americans consume almost 100 billion eggs a year, so this is obviously a huge issue. And beyond just eating them, they're required to bake basically anything. You put them in dressing or sauces. Like
100 billion eggs and you consume 20 billion of them. Yeah. Consumer demand for eggs has actually been up for 23 consecutive months. And this is, of course, because of the bird flu that hit the U.S. in 2022 and has infected or killed 166 million birds so far. So it started in wild birds, spread to poultry, then cattle, and now there are cases of it infecting people. So one person died in January, a few have been hospitalized, and there are just no signs of the bird flu stopping anytime soon.
And the USDA's longstanding policy is that if one bird in a flock tests positive for the virus, the entire flock has to be killed, which makes sense. It's just unfortunate the farmers have to pay not only for the killing of the rest of the flock, but also replacing them with healthy stock, which can take up to 6 months.
And roughly 15% of the country's egg-laying chickens have been killed in the past 4 months, and egg prices in that period have risen 255%. So there's just really tight supply and really high demand, which has led the U.S. to start importing tons of eggs.
Yes, Turkey is sending 15,000 tons of eggs, wow. And Brazil is doubling its egg exports to 35,000 tons. And this is interesting because the U.S. only recently allowed Brazilian eggs to be imported for human consumption, and previously they were only reserved for pet food.
Yeah, don't feel great about that. It's just clear that the U.S. is desperate for eggs, and the world kind of knows it. Last month, a Ukrainian official joked that Ukraine should just send the U.S. eggs for continued financial and military support.
Well, we all remember that press conference where Trump was surrounded by groceries.
And I went on groceries. It's a very simple word, groceries. Like almost, who uses the word? I started using the word, the groceries. When you buy apples, when you buy bacon, when you buy eggs, they would double and triple the price over a short period of time. And I won an election based on that. We're going to bring those prices way down.
But now that he's president, he is changing his tune a little. Both he and the press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, continue to blame Biden.
Because there is a lot of reporting out there that is putting the onus on this White House for the increased cost of eggs. I would like to point out to each and every one of you that in 2024, when Joe Biden was in the Oval Office, or upstairs in the residence sleeping, I'm not so sure, egg prices increased 65%. As far as the egg shortage, what's also contributing to that is that the Biden administration in the Department of Agriculture directed the mass killing of more than 100 million chickens.
Which is interesting because Biden was actually criticized by public health officials for not doing enough to stop the spread of bird flu when he was president. But I guess Trump's saying he did too much.
And I guess an outbreak that hit the world in 2022 can't be blamed on a single administration in its 3rd month, but it is Trump's problem now, and it was a campaign promise to sort the issue. He literally said, starting the day I take the oath of office, I will rapidly drive prices down, and is now posting "Shut Up About Eggs." So I don't know, it's like a little bit inconsistent, and his strategy is kind of confused. Like during the campaign, he said he'd drive down prices by increasing drilling.
Vance also said the way to drive down prices is to encourage more capital investment into the country. They remind me of the water tank guy meme where he sticks like the piece of tape on the leak. They're like, drilling or investment, like, is just going to solve everything.
Yeah, and adding tariffs. So he's slapping 25% tariffs on Mexico, which is actually where we get over 60% of our fruits and vegetables. So that would just drive grocery prices up even more.
But let's take a look at what he has done to combat bird flu and the eggpocalypse.
So last month, the USDA fired officials that were working specifically on the H5N1 avian flu outbreak, which is bird flu. And since the outbreak has gotten worse, they're now scrambling around trying to rehire everyone that they fired.
That's a major oops moment. And the USDA historically has had the strongest avian flu surveillance program in the world.
And it seems like all of these acclaimed departments and protocols that were put in place are changing. So last month, officials said that they couldn't reach anyone at the White House if they flagged bird flu in the area. And an insider said that the administration is slow walking critical updates and that communication isn't fast enough.
Yeah, local public health departments say it's made their job way more difficult because they're not getting timely updates from the CDC about what's going on at the national level. For example, Wyoming confirmed its first case of avian flu in a human, but nearby counties learned about it through the Wyoming Health Department update instead of hearing directly from the CDC.
And for context, the CDC doesn't have a confirmed director yet, though Trump's HHS pick, RFK, is confirmed.
Ah, yes, RFK, the one that said he'd like to give infectious disease research a break for 8 years.
Oh, yeah, nice. We also know that the Trump administration has stopped reporting flu data to the World Health Organization, and that the federal funding freeze has left virus researchers lost and wondering whether their research would continue.
But the Trump administration and the USDA have released a 5-part, $1 billion plan to combat avian flu and reduce egg prices. So they're going to invest in gold standard biosecurity measures, bring in more hens to repopulate flocks, remove unnecessary regulatory burdens like geographical price differences, increase aid to farmers, and test vaccines that protect chickens.
And the plan is getting positive responses, especially from farmers about giving chickens vaccines. So the USDA has given conditional approval to develop them. And these vaccines aren't new. They're used in other countries already, like China, Mexico, France, and Vietnam. It's just kind of funny to me that the somewhat anti-vax administration is so supportive of vaccinating chickens.
I mean, it is one solution to the bird flu. This is also such an endorsement for smaller farms because the pathogen risk when you have 3 million birds compared to like 30,000 is way greater. But most eggs in the US do come from mega farms, so.
Which is why the DOJ is now investigating whether major egg companies are violating antitrust laws by sharing information about supply and pricing, which possibly causes prices to skyrocket.
The egg production industry has consolidated over the past 3 decades, and now 5 producers control over half the egg market in the US. And 2 years ago, the largest producers were found liable for inflating prices in the 2000s. So there is precedent for this.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think of like giant evil egg companies, but in 2011, Kraft and General Mills sued the big egg producers, claiming that they had colluded to reduce the supply of eggs to increase prices. The case went to a jury, which finally in 2023 found that the egg producers had illegally inflated prices, calculating $53 million in damages.
So there was a lot of pressure on the DOJ to launch this investigation, and it'll be interesting to see if any legal action is taken.
So, Wren, you're probably wondering if your breakfast is in jeopardy. Are eggs safe to eat?
I love that this is part of my brand now.
Egg girl.
But I am actually wondering.
Well, lucky for you, in over 300 million Americans, experts say that eggs are safe to eat. Contaminated eggs are probably never going to make it to your kitchen. And even if they do, cooking them to 165 degrees kills bacteria and viruses, including the bird flu.
Okay, and that makes sense because it's the same with like chicken. It's safe as long as you cook it through, or pasteurized milk, like the pasteurization process like neutralizes the viruses.
Right, which is why raw milk is risky because the virus replicates in cows' mammary glands. RFK.